Okay.
All right, good. All right. Thank you for joining us today. I'm here with Rory Allen. Rory is the president and owner of Zoom Buffalo, a great printing business and more in Buffalo, New York. And I'll let Rory tell you a little bit more about his business and his background as we get into a little bit more of our conversation. Welcome, Rory. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
All right, so just to kind of get started, let's start at the very beginning. You want to just tell us a little bit about yourself and your business?
Sure. Started my business in 2003. We started as a document scanning company. So we would take people's large rooms full of records and scan them. And that quickly evolved into people asking us to then print those records. So we started buying printing equipment. That evolved into becoming more of a printing company and less of a scanning company, although we still do some scanning services. And then most recently, we've got into large format products. So when I said printing before, I meant like, postcards and booklets and that kind of thing. And we still do that, but we've been more recently been known for large format printing. So we print a lot of the murals that you see in town are actually printed. Somebody might paint them in a smaller format. We make them larger and put them on walls. We do a lot of the lawn signs in town. We started the Alan Diggs campaign, which we're most known for most recently. So we make lots of lawn signs, all kinds of products that involve what are called large format printing. Large format printing means anything bigger than that you can print on like your basic copier printer. So like 11 by 17, anything bigger than that is called large format. And we've just done a lot of that. What that has also meant is that we have to offer a lot of creative services, meaning graphic design. So we help folks with designing things that they need to then be printed. So it's a wide array of services, but the common denominator is, I guess, digital files so that are usually printed. Oh, I lost your audio for some reason.
Oh, can you hear me now? Sorry, Rory.
No,
No, I know we were chatting before we got started, and I know you're a Buffalo guy, you're a Western New York guy. What tell us a little bit about your educational background? High school, college. What was your path to get where you are today?
Yeah, so I started at St. Joe's, ended up at Amherst High School, went to Buff State to study business studies, which meant to teach business. I ended up going through what's called the National Student Exchange, which brought me to finish school out in California at a place called Cal State Hayward, which is just outside of Oakland. I lived in San Francisco, worked at a couple of different a music marketing company and some other things, and then got into this industry working for another company in San Francisco. And after a couple of years, I thought I can do this, and I want to do it myself. And I had come home for a Christmas break, and I was about, 22 or 23. I came home for a Christmas break and told my parents I want to start this business, and they said, "You're crazy. You're doing great. Stay out there." And I thought that was kind of weird that they didn't want me to come home, but I was sort of convinced. And then some layoffs happened, and I was laid off from the company got bought by another company, and so I was laid off. And so I had the severance package, which was a few $1,000s and a few $1,000s saved up and a few $1,000s for my parents. And I decided to move back to Buffalo and start this business. Well, I'd started out of my apartment on Norwood on the west side of Buffalo, and I would literally go like door to door selling my services. And my whole office was in the front room of this apartment that I shared with friends. And I would sell things during the day. And if I actually got projects to produce, I was selling printing services and scanning services. So if I got a job, I would just do it myself at night and then bring it back to these people in the morning. And, it was obviously very, very startup and, very, I guess, low budget. We didn't have a ton of money, but we figured out. And then from there, we grew and started to pick up more and more customers, and then got an office down in the Ellicott Square building. and then, hired our first employee, or hired my first employee. I say our. When you're a one-person operation, you sometimes say our, even when you're a two-person operation. And it's just a habit. I guess it's maybe like a marketing habit, to appear bigger than you are. But anyway, at that point, I was me, and I hired my first employee, and that taught me a lot. And over the years, it's just grown and grown, and still just an office of 7 of us, but it's been a great business. I love what I do, and I'm going to work every day, enjoying what I'm doing, having a lot of fun. So
that's great. Well, and it's really interesting too, because at that time, Buffalo was a different city, right? So, I mean, I would imagine your business continued to grow as business downtown continued to grow, and just Buffalo in general, changed. Was that part of kind of the evolution of your business too?
Yeah, I mean, it's been it's funny when we've been on the 700 block of Main, which is like a block north of Shays. People know where that is. And that block, I think we were the second business on that block. And, over the years, it's grown to be, 15, 20 businesses on that block. So we've watched the population sort of grow over time. The pandemic has definitely put a dent in that a little bit, but at the same time, it's it's a neighborhood. It's a vibrant neighborhood with businesses and people going to work every day, and it's obviously helped us because a lot of our customers are right in our vicinity. So it's helped us survive, to have everybody doing lots of things. You mentioned 43 North. There's a bunch of customers that have come up through there. ACV being one of their biggest early customers, is an early customer of mine, and we watched them grow, and it was exciting to take phone calls from them when they had 8 employees, and then now they have thousands. So makes me feel a little bit underperforming, but I can take I have no goals to be that big, which is fine, but no, but I kind of laugh about it, because at one point, one of the founders of ACV, I was in a business thing with him, and he used to take business advice from me. And I thought, man, I'm pretty sure that I shouldn't have been getting any business advice to Dan. So for him to be taking it from me, and then to grow to where they've been is pretty funny. So
that's great. I know, we know ACV well too, and it's this revival of business in Buffalo, and these startups that continue to grow is really exciting to see. And I think that's something that even like students watching, our middle school and high school students, don't really understand. They don't have that perspective of what Buffalo was like, 20 years ago, when your business was starting. And that you mentioned the pandemic a little bit. How did that affect your business, at first, like when everything started to shut down, and how did that affect your business, and how did you guys adapt to that?
So I have to start by saying 2008, which was probably one of the toughest times for my business and a lot of people I know. We at that point, we were a 5-year-old business, and didn't see that coming, and really set me back quite a bit. And it took me a long time. And when I say a long time, I mean, like, I don't know, felt like forever. It felt like 10 years. I don't know. It's probably more like 7 or 8, to sort of dig myself out of the hole that was created in 2008. So in 2008, there was a global financial crisis. People stopped hiring us, stopped paying our bills. We were a much smaller company revenue-wise, and so it just totally crushed us and created some debt for myself. When I saw the pandemic about to come, all I could think of is that this is going to happen again. And so I panicked. Admittedly, I was freaking out. I was, Business First did an article about me, because I was very vocal on social media about, how obviously I understood the severity of the pandemic, but I was also very concerned that we weren't overreacting. Of course, looking in retrospect, we weren't. But if you told somebody on March of 2020 that, are we overreacting or not? You have no idea, right? So I wasn't sure if we were. And so I was very vocal about it. And we just made some changes in what we offered. It turned out, I mean, as far as from a business perspective, how the pandemic could have went, I could have never predicted that some of the things that happened in our favor for my business personally would have happened. And mostly we have I mentioned earlier, we provide lawn signs, we do banners, those kind of things. And that business, we started with actually high school lawn signs. That was our very first, I'll never forget. It was Ken Maurice, ironically. A friend of mine had a daughter at Ken Maurice, and he said, "Hey, can you make this Ken Maurice lawn sign?" And she's graduating. We feel really bad. So I remember telling my wife, like, "Hey, like, who knew, right? Like, people want these like high school lawn signs." So I just started designing them for all these different schools and making them available for sale on our website. That was like on a Friday or Saturday morning. By like Monday morning, this is like middle of March, right at the beginning, like shutdowns of the pandemic. We offer all these high school lawn signs and everybody wants them. And we're like, okay, like didn't think this was a thing. And I remember telling my wife, like, "Oh, this is the lawn sign thing." And she's like, "For high school?" And she's like, "The kids want them?" I'm like, "Actually, no, the parents want them." I mean, maybe some of the kids want them, but the parents.
Right, we had one, yep.
The parents were the ones who felt so bad, and rightfully so, right? And so we, that was part of the beginning of what we were like. Well, maybe this isn't so bad for our business, and then it turned into, stickers to tell people to stay 6 feet apart, and window signage that said there are new hours for restaurants, and banners that told you they were still taking online delivery, and all this stuff. So I never knew it, but all of these transitions, and then we are a print shop that offers mailing services. So by the rules of at the time, we were considered essential because we were a mail house. And so, but we were one of the only mail houses that also had, this large format equipment. So it got it got interesting because we were one of the only shops open. And we did everything we could to keep our employees safe. Like we would stagger shifts, so I would come in at night. And we have this big open office, so it turns out that it's pretty COVID friendly for the amount of employees we have. Nobody really has to share a space, a tight space anyway. From an air standpoint, we have 20-foot ceilings, and people are really spread out. So it all helped. And who knew at the time, like all of these things would do. But the bottom line is that it was not nearly as bad as we thought. We would make these, people want to celebrate somebody's birthday, and we would make a life-size cutout of them. And so their friends could come over and take turns taking pictures of them on their front lawn as a life-size cutout of the person.
That's right. Yeah.
So all these sort of weird things that, between having an e-commerce website, which zoombuffalo.com is, and being able to, have these like touchless services where people could come to our shop, pick stuff up, not have to see anybody basically, which was where we were at that point. And it turned out fine. Yeah.
That's great. And I think that's a really interesting point too. We know some businesses were able to transition during this time and kind of, get creative. And it was one of those silver linings that really nobody expected. That's how I came to, I knew, I know you, and I've known of Zoom Buffalo, but all of a sudden I was seeing these lawn signs everywhere. And like I said, I had one of my own. I've got, of course, business probably is better too when the bills are doing well. I see a lot of bill signs around.
Yeah, we have to be careful because we cannot we cannot sell bills trademarked items. Right. So we have to get creative. It turns out. Yeah, it turns out that my last name is Allen, and we were the Allen Diggs campaign that we started, but you can't really trademark a last name. So that's kind of, people are like, how do you get away with that? And it's like, well, it's just kind of a loophole in the law. Yeah. So And then there's some, like nobody really owns Let's Go Buffalo. So a lot of the Let's Go
Right.
Buffalo stuff we're
Yeah.
able to do. So it's, no, but it's, again, yeah, if who knew that the Bills were going to do so well during all that. Thankfully for Buffalo, like it gave us something to look forward to.
Latch on to. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, absolutely. So I know you mentioned you're a relatively small business. You started with just a few of your friends and now you've grown to 7 employees. Is that what you mentioned? So on that team, you mentioned having a graphic designer. What are some of the other jobs that you have on the team?
So we have more or less a regular format people that do regular format scanning and copying. And then we have designers, and the designers are pretty ambidextrous in the sense that they design, but then they also help us install. So for instance, yesterday, one of our designers basically takes a project from start to finish. He takes some window graphics and, more or less lays them out in a way that can be prints and cuts them, and then takes them to a business where he puts those graphics on the window. So, and that's a team of 2. And so that's really the key with my business, is that the core competency of most of my employees is graphic design. And so they use those skills to then do almost everything else. And so most of my employees have that as a background. And, I would encourage anybody who's interested in graphic design to pursue it, get into the Adobe suite, really learn, Photoshop, Illustrator, InDesign, and learn those tools. If you do like them, and I mean, there's so much you can do to learn it in school, but also self-teach and take those skills. And I mean, if I was somebody in high school or college right now and interested in that field, the best thing you could do is start offering those services to people that are your friends and family, and learn what you can about the process of, offering those as services. And maybe for a while, if you're really new, you could start doing it at no cost. You could volunteer to do it. If you saw that maybe your friend's family owns a restaurant, you see that their menus really could use some improvement, you could, offer to do that as sort of a learning experience for yourself. And for them, you'd be helping them out, and maybe they'd trade you for food or something. I don't know. But the point is that it's a really great field for anybody to pursue. There's, as things evolve, excuse me, and technology evolves, the need for a graphic designer and somebody with those skills is never going away. You will forever, there's always going to be a need for people to say, I want this, but in a graphic way. Can you help me accomplish it? And much like every firm, or let's say a larger company with 200 employees, they might have a chief financial officer and a human resources officer and a vice president of sales. I really believe that every company will have, more or less a lead graphic designer and a chief marketing person, somebody who, and you're seeing it more and more as a skill that people need. And so I think when I was growing up, people were told, oh, don't be an artist. There's no future in it. You're going to be painting pictures for, the classic starving artist. And I think that luckily a lot has changed. There's more opportunities than ever. We're all living in this very visual world with phones and apps, and all these things, and people want to present themselves digitally in a graphic way. So,
yeah, that's all very good points. We are in a very digital world and graphic imagery, and it's everywhere we look. And that's really, that's what our students know. From everything they do in school to then outside of school. So that's all really good points. On top of, obviously,
the background behind you,
absolutely,
somebody was paid to design that. Somebody was paid to install that. That's a perfect example.
Definitely. And I think it's a good point that you made too, that it's not just graphic design skills aren't just, applicable in graphic design jobs. They're kind of, it's becoming one of those transferable skills,
Exactly.
where that maybe wasn't the case when we were coming up. On top of like the technical skills, so we at Junior Achievement, we do a lot of programming around work and career readiness, and we talk a lot about technical skills and soft skills. What are some of, we refer to them as soft skills, but what are some of those skills that you look for in a good employee when you're hiring and you're looking to bring someone on your team? What are some of those things that you look for?
That's a great question. I would say people that aim to actively listen, communicate in a way that is, I think, and I don't take this the wrong way in my audience here, but one of the problems that I see with people coming up now is this, inability to maybe communicate in person or have a conversation. And I think both are important, being able to communicate in email and text and all of the ways that aren't face-to-face, but in just the way we're talking now, being able to carry on a conversation, but ask good questions, and really listen and try to find out what it is that somebody's trying to accomplish. So I guess listening first, but listening isn't just let me stop and talk. It's let me listen to the words you're saying and digest them, and then excuse me, record that information in a way that is useful later. So, and then I would say attitude. I think you can, I can tell you that throughout the last 18 years in business, the most valuable employees, because of how they represent our company, and just my own interaction with them, is that if their attitude is good, and really keep a close eye on it, because it's easy to give off small clues as to why you're not happy about something, and it doesn't mean that you have to be fake and always be happy with things, but really check your attitude and say, really, this isn't such a bad task I've been asked to do, or wow, I'm really lucky to be able to be doing this and not something else that would be less desirable. So keeping a check on your own attitude and really, between that and listening, I really feel like those are the soft skills that every employer is looking for. And if you bring a great attitude and you're a good listener, you can pretty much work anywhere. And you will be, and if you aren't, you will quickly be, thought of as not a great employee. So, and that, not even just employee. I try to have those same, qualities. I think that if I'm dealing with a customer and they think, oh wow, he's got a bad attitude, or he's got bad listening skills,
Right.
then this isn't going to go well. And you can make all the difference in the world with those two things. So.
Yeah. And I think we've heard that, I've asked that question before, and I think in other conversations, we've heard that loud and clear too. Half the battle is attitude, and how you approach the day and how you approach the people that you come across. So I think that's, a really important point for sure.
And it affects, I've learned this, and it's taken me a long time to learn, which is company culture, because if everybody, excuse me, everybody has a good attitude at work, then guess what? Everybody wants to be there.
Right.
Especially in an actual environment, not a virtual environment. You're coming into a space and you're sharing a lot of your day with these other people, and you just want to, if you bring a good attitude, the culture of the whole organization, and one bad attitude in an organization can really bring down the culture. And
absolutely. Especially on a small team. Absolutely. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And then that leads right into my next question too, and really kind of my final question. How important is that work-life balance for you personally, and to give that to your employees too?
Absolutely. In my business, I try very hard to keep my work hours, and I would say that I pat myself on the back. I'm pretty good about the non after hours texts or vacation texts or anything like that. Emails. So we're a 9 to 5 shop. And so I really want after hours, my employees to feel like, that's their time. And so I would be the person usually driving, but we're just not, the culture of our business is that you're there 9 to 5. And the customer obviously has a crisis. We will do what we can, but we don't want to train our customers to believe that they could call us at 9 o'clock on a Saturday and we're going to drop what we're doing and come in and solve some problem for them. But so for the most part, we are pretty good about that. Yeah, so.
And how do you personally, in your downtimes, and I know the day-to-day business can get crazy. How do you decompress? Like, what are your outside of work hobbies to take your mind off of everything else for a bit?
Well, right now I'm obviously a big sports fan. Bills and Sabres are something I do. My kids play hockey, so I never thought I'd get to the point where I actually care about the outcome of a youth sport, the outcome of a Bills game or something. But I've gotten to that point. I'm a golfer, so I try to play golf in the summer when it allows me, and then just I try to get out for walks. I think one of the things that you can neglect here in Buffalo is your own exercise. It's like, you could get into these ruts. You add COVID, and it's like you could look and be like, "When's the last time I got my heart rate up?" And it was, unfortunately, in my case, it's probably been about a month. But yeah, I would say my advice to anybody is to keep an eye on that. It's when I'm exercising, I know that I'm doing better in my whole life, not just, my work life is improving, not just my health. So.
That's great. That was going to be my next question. Do you find that helps, the business side when you take time for yourself? Do you find that helps?
Absolutely. Yeah.
I would agree. Absolutely. Well, I have one last question for you, Rory, because I know you're a big Bills guy and Sabres guy. Big game on Monday night. Who do you think is going to come out on top, Bills or Patriots?
I've told my staff that I've been worried about the Patriots since the beginning. I still think the Bills are going to take them. I think it's going to be, if I had to predict a score, I think it's going to be 28-14. I think the Bills defense is going to show up, and I think we're going to surprise a lot of people with our offense, even in some maybe poor conditions. So.
All right. I love to hear it. I mean, we can't hope for anything else, right? I even wore my Bills scarf for you to ask that question. So thanks so much, Rory. I appreciate it. Where can we find more information about Zoom Buffalo? Your website?
So zoombuffalo.com is our web ordering tool. We're also go by zoomcopy.com, which is more or less a brochure about our business. We started as Zoom Copy, and we're Zoom Copy for many years, and we switched to this e-commerce model. So we're trying. We do our best to try to service people who do, some of the projects we work on can be done on your own on our website. So that's zoombuffalo.com. But sometimes people need a little more hand holding. So Zoom Copy kind of lends itself to the more traditional call up my printer or email my printer and tell them I need help with this, and we go back and forth. So either site helps you get to one of those two options.
Great. Thank you so much, Rory. I appreciate the time. Thanks for taking the time to chat with us this morning. And I know our students will really enjoy it. So I appreciate it.
All right. Go Sabres and go Bills.
All right. Thanks.
Take care.